View of the BI360 suite. We'll start off just a quick PowerPoint giving you an illustration of how the software is put together and where exactly we fit with regards to your business requirements. And then the majority of the time we'll really spend in the presentation itself, where we'll go through and rip apart the tool to show you the full functionality of it. And as Jim alluded to, this is first part of the series. And what we'll do is next week we'll have the Management Reporter Replacement series. And then we'll go and do the budgeting component of it. So you can see how all of it fits together in this episode. And then the subsequent ones, you're going to be able to see individually, get into a lot more detail. So without further ado, what I want to do here is go in and first start off and say, Solver is really in the corporate performance management space, and what that entails is specifically reporting and budgeting. So we don't compete with the likes of PowerBI.com, and the reason we don't is because they're a visualization product, so they're good for interactive charts, dashboards. Maybe if you want to measure attrition rate when someone hovers on top of your website, that's PowerBI.com's domain. Our expertise is more focused around the Office of Finance, and what you'll see are, we'll do budgeting, formatted reports. It's all Excel-based, and you can create your financial statements in there. We are in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. We have thousands of customers worldwide, and we're growing very quickly. I'll skip this, but a recurring theme throughout the presentation that should be clear is it's really not meant for IT. It's meant for finance and professionals without technical expertise to be able to go in and create their own templates. And also, it leverages Excel. So you'll see that, hey, you're creating an Excel, but you can deploy via the web. And what I mean by that, and this is the very last slide before we proceed and show you the product itself, because that's really where I want to spend the majority of the time in. This is an important slide to understand how all of these components fit together. So our suite consists of 4 modules: reporting, budgeting, dashboarding, and a data warehouse. And they can be either purchased all at once, or you can grow into the tool in phases. And one more thing I'll add, we actually just released our cloud version. So we are both on-premise and hosted, as well as a truly multi-tenant cloud in Azure. So depending on your methodology and your preference, just note that we do have both. And as I'm kind of looking at this and how all of the modules fit together, follow my cursor. Right here, what we have is live reporting from Great Plains. And so when you post a journal entry, you'll immediately see that in the reporting tool. And this is a direct replacement for Management Reporter. But in addition to just replacing Management Reporter, it also will give you the ability to report of all your subledger data. So if you wanted to do something such as drill down into your subledger, if you wanted to build a receivable report, a payable report, any of the modules that you have in Great Plains are going to be available immediately for reporting. And we initially built this tool, and what users said was, hey, phenomenal. We love reporting out of Great Plains, but we have other data sources. Perhaps it's Microsoft, it's a CRM, but perhaps it's a Salesforce or a proprietary system or a payroll system such as ADP, UltiPro, and so on. What you can do with our software, and I think this really differentiates us in the marketplace, we're not just limited to your Dynamics data. You can load other data sources into this data warehouse, and for the folks in the room that already have data warehouses, it would function as a data mart. And effectively what it is pushing all the data in one place for your reports and for your budgets. Now, this is where, if we look at the BI tools, they don't handle the things such as we do, such as allocations, eliminations, multi-currency can be handled here, consolidations, and if you wanted to create hierarchy trees, if you have minority interests, anything along those lines, all of those can be handled inside this data warehouse, which I'll show you at the very end. And last thing, if you have statistical data, just disparate data in Excel, we can load that into the warehouse as well. And again, the point of all of this is for you to create reports using the exact same tool that you're doing with the live reporting piece and create your budgeting and forecasting template with full workflow. So you can deploy it out, users input their data, stores back, and then you can easily report off of it. And then the last piece here, you can deploy everything on the web, and that's where, you'll get some dashboards, and these are great dashboards, kind of simple for the Office of Finance. If you need PowerBI.com, we actually have an integration to it. And on this web portal, you also have your reports that you can drill down and your budgets. So the point is, hopefully what you'll see, our value proposition is we are an entire suite. And as you're looking at this, you might say, great, but I only want to do reporting for this phase. Perfect. You start with reporting, but then you can grow into the tool and everything will nicely integrate. So that's about it, all I have for PowerPoint. Really want to get into the product now. And what I'll do is, I'll start off from an end user perspective. So put your, kind of mindset in the position of a CFO or maybe the CEO that's going to view all of this in one place. Then we'll transition out of it and say, wow, okay, great. The CFO is excited. They greenlighted this project. Well, how hard is it to create these templates? So what I'll do is I'll generate just a quick report live from the Fabricam Test GP database. And then we'll look at the data warehouse and some of the other features within our suites. Okay. And yeah, I realize this can be a little overwhelming because, again, we do have a lot of components here. But the episode after this is going to kind of go into a lot more detail on the reporting piece. In the episode after that, it's going to go into budgeting. And we're also happy to set up a custom presentation. We have about 20 verticals for various industries. So we can show you templates that are relevant to you. Now, what I'll do is I'll go in and open up a web browser, and I'm going to log in with my credentials. This is really important because the security that's set up in one place in BI360 is actually carried across all the applications. So when I'm logging in here, I'll only see the specific departments, divisions, even accounts that are assigned to me. Another thing here, and you'll be able to customize this. You'll be able to create your own logo in the back, put your whatever view you prefer. Here we have various views. I'm going to just do the carousel for presentation purposes. And because I logged in here with my unique credentials, what I can do is go in and toggle certain templates as favorites. And that's advantageous because instead of scrolling through all of the templates, I could just go in here and see the ones that are most relevant to me, right? Things that I consume on a daily basis, perhaps. And here, I want to kind of restate this a few times. Everything you're seeing today are just samples. You'll be able to customize this, right? The point is just to give you a look and feel of the tool, and if it's a good fit, there's a service component to this where we're going to come out and site and train you, and then you're going to be able to recreate this on your own. So I'll go and, I got it, that's my favorite. But, really, you want people to have their favorites, but you also want to create a flow of information for them. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll create your own logic, but we said, hey, let's start with the strategy, then let's go in, let's let users forecast, then view their budgets, full workflow. So the people that are approving the budget can go right underneath here. You can have multi-level workflow, so maybe people that approve those. And then right underneath it, you have your actual to budget reports. And if you are using the dashboard component, you can have a field here for your dashboards. So let's take a look, and I'll go and start off with a very simple forecasting template. And forecasting and budgeting in our sense is kind of interchangeable, and I'll show you why. What's the point of this, right? So let's pretend you're currently using Excel for budgeting, and you're using Management Reporter. If you're using other tools, it's fine. I'm just kind of using that for an example. What you do is in our tool, you take a template and you run it for various parameters. So you run it for company, you run it for department, whatever's important to you. And this, by the way, is where security kicks in. So if I'm a department head that can only see sales and marketing and administration, those are going to be the only two departments that I'll be able to see. All right? I'll expand this. And it gives you 9 months of data because I picked up September and 3 months that I can forecast out to. I can drill into any of the actuals. And to forecast, what I can do is, I can type numbers in here. I can also use formulas. So if I wanted to do and say, hey, I want to take the average here of these 9 months and multiply it out by, let's say, 20%, I can do that. Then, when I'm done, I'm going to go in here and store that data back into the database. What's the point of this? So let's go back to that example, and we'll say, all right, Alex said we're currently in MR and Excel. Most of us are. How is this going to make my life easier when I forecast? Well, so in Management Reporter, if now it's October and you want to reforecast for the rest of the 2 months, you'd have to copy and paste the data into this column in a separate Excel spreadsheet and save as, right? Whereas what you're doing in the software is you're going in and saying, hey, now October, click a button, and automatically October here gets filled in with actual data coming from Great Plains. Now, it eliminates the potential error of copy and pasting or doing something wrong. It also saves you time from taking data from MR, pushing it into Excel. But now multiply that for all of the possible departments or divisions. And that's really when you start seeing the time-saving component of this, right? Where you can go in and say, hey, same template, but instead of for administration, right, I want to perhaps run it for finance and accounting. Click a button, and automatically I see the data for finance and accounting. Over here on the left-hand side, by the way, I can toggle between the different departments. I can copy and paste, and so on. But the point is, no more links in Excel, no more copy and pasting from Management Reporter, because it is real time here, which is a huge differentiation because GP is really our core market. And then third, you're not going to have multiple Excel spreadsheets everywhere. You have one nice one here. Okay? Now, a lot of users said, hey, this is great, forecasting, but let's see the budgeting and let's get a little more complex, right? What else can you do? So before I go in and show you a few templates, just note that security is on the template level as well. So, if I'm a person that is not going to be able to see personnel or travel, great. I'll only see the templates that are relevant for me, okay, that I have access to. Now, in our example, let's say you're the budget manager, and what you want to do as the budget manager is store some of these assumptions. Now, these right here, I'm just using travel, and I'll use some of the tax assumptions for payroll. This can be any driver you want. So, I actually, as a consultant, I implemented for a company that created mega yachts. And what they did here is they said, hey, in every single lot, our entire revenue is based on the square feet per lot and how many of these mega yachts we can fit there, because that's the bread and butter. They store these yachts and refurbish them. So their template was extremely customized, where they measured square feet of the yacht, they measured square feet of the actual land, they measured the crew, and all of those fed into the revenue and expenses. And the point is, you'll be able to customize this to any single driver you want. In our example, just to illustrate the way it works, I'll go in here and say, hey, maybe for the FICA rate, it's going to be 7.21 here. I'm going to change this and click Store Data. Good. So the budget manager now stored that 7.21, and the department head or the person actually submitting, they don't really care about that. The only thing they want to do, sorry about that, internet froze up there a second. The only thing they want to do is go in and pick out their personnel file, right? So they'll go in here. They won't see assumptions, but what they might see is the personnel. And again, same concept, and hopefully that's you'll see that's one tool for all of this stuff. I'll go in, pick a department, and let's say finance and accounting. Click OK, refresh. Okay, I'll expand this out a bit. And now I'm going to go in and, for my full-time, part-time employees, in the yellow cells, add some data. And by the way, so this is data right here, the full and part-time employees and the hire dates. That's coming from a payroll system. That right there is the benefit of being able to integrate other data sources, right? So, this data is coming from, in this example, ADP, right? But ultimately, it's going to store down right here to the general ledger. Okay. And what I'll do here is, as an example, let's say Aubrey's going to get a promotion. So we'll just say she's going to get a promotion to VP of Finance, and perhaps it's going to happen in June of next year. I can set an end date if I want, and then I'll go and say, great, her salary is going to be $83,000, and if she does really well in August, we want to increase the salary here by 4%. Okay. The point is, all of this stuff, if I go in and say, hey, we're going to hire a staff accountant here, and I'll say it's going to happen in February, here are the hours, it says to be hired number 2. When you actually hire someone, it's going to replace with that name. Okay. And we'll say here, yeah, let's make Aubrey eligible for benefits. And now over on the right-hand side, right, we see the salary starts in June, okay? We see it goes until December, and as we continue scrolling through, we see the total compensation here. And then for the taxes and benefits, right, it uses that 7.21 as the FICA rate. Why? Because in the previous template, the budget manager said 7.21. So now it uses that to calculate everyone's minimum and maximum, right? And set in, the FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' comp, and headcount. And again, you'll be able to customize these templates. The point is, you're not using links in Excel anymore that might break and cause you headaches. You're inputting data, and now you're using that 7.21 to calculate other aspects of the budget. No more links in Excel. Now, this is great for kind of a more of a bottom-up approach, but a few folks said, hey, what if I want to pick out more than one department? Very flexible in terms of the template. And what I can do here is say, I actually want to see these 3 departments instead. Click OK, and then when I click a button, it's actually pretty powerful. So I say, are you sure you don't want to save those changes? I'll just say no. And now when I expand this out, I can see administration. Here's the full-time, part-time employees. This stores down to the general ledger, right? Here's finance and accounting, full and part-time employees, stores down to the general ledger, and HR, full and part-time, storing down to the general ledger. Okay? So combines both data sources, and instead of using links, you're calculating, from a database. And then you're done, and you store that data back into the data warehouse. Now, I'll go back and kind of skip through some of these guys. It's a travel expense, and we have a lot of operational based ones. Really the rule of thumb is if you can do it in Excel, you can do it in our software, right? And that's, again, because what you'll see in a second is you're creating these templates in Excel. So I'll skip through this and just show you, kind of one final template and that I think is really important. Again, you pick out your parameters. I'll expand this out, and this will probably be blank for you. The purpose of this template is to budget for next year. Over on the right-hand side, right, we see 9 months of actual and 3 months of forecast. And guess where that forecast is coming from, right? That forecast is coming from the first template that I showed to you. So again, you're not using links in Excel. Because you store the forecast for sales and marketing, for corporate US in the previous template, it's now used right here. And I'll also scroll down. And, if I did have a bunch of full-time salespeople getting stored down, right here, this aggregates the total. And the point of all this is to show you the total expenses that you budget and the total expenses for last year. And what I'll do here is I'll go in and some background noise here. If you can mute yourself, if you're not speaking, I'd appreciate it. We had some technical difficulties with the GoToMeeting. All right, perfect. So the point of this template, is to go in and say, all right, yeah, I know for some of these, right, I could just input data that I understand, but perhaps for conference and seminars, I want some more detailed information, right? So hey, exactly, which conferences are we attending? What I can do is right-click, and right underneath here, I can add line item details that are going to roll into that account. So perhaps you purchase Solver, and that's going to be Solver user conference, in San Diego, right? I can go in and type exactly when we're going to spend that amount. And then I can continue going and add even more line item details. Oh, sorry about that. Froze out a bit. So let me just go back in this template real quick. Right click. Say great. I want to go and say focus conference. Type in when we're going to spend that amount. And the point is, you can keep going, and this becomes really useful for your travel and entertainment, right? Solvers user group in LA, where we're based out of, and I could go in and continue typing my numbers in here and adding line item details. There's no limit to how many details you have here. Conference, maybe in Chicago or something along those lines. If I want to add notes, by the way, I can do that too. So maybe here, you want to go in and say, hey, Solver is the new budgeting and reporting tool, right? And now your user is going to be able to drill in and see that Alex decided here to spend, almost $5,000 on the user group in LA. Click OK, and now they get stored back into the database. If, maybe you don't need that level of detail, you can always go in here, and instead of that, you could do something like, hey, let's take the history of that account, right? Click Apply, and now the history of that account spreads, so it accounts for seasonality. And perhaps for advertising, you're growing, so what you actually want to do is increase every month by 8%. Click Apply, and now every single month increases by 8%. So it counts for seasonality, without you manually having to go in and do a bunch of Excel formulas. And by the way, there's many other ways to spread the seasonality or to do those calculations. I just showed you one. And then when I'm done, I go in here and I store that data now back into the database. What's the point? Well, the point is now your users can go in here, drill down, and see who's budgeting. And then another thing, which I haven't shown yet, you see this check mark here that's disabled? This is workflow. So when a person is actually done with his or her template, what they can do is click this check mark, and that says, great, I'm finished with the template. And if I look at it, once the user goes in, checks this, as administrator, what you can do is go in, and this right here, the budget approvers, that's just going to be for the folks actually approving the templates. They can go in here and maybe see something like this, which has all of the templates, all of the users. You can set start end dates, and then after someone clicks that check mark, you're going to have the ability to say, all right, well, obviously this personnel is up for approval because Alex here, which would be the name, click the check mark, you go in, approve them, and then it closes out the template. Also, you can see, for some users, you can hide templates so they don't even see them. You can see that demo user 4, perhaps they saved, but they haven't actually submitted them. And if you want to see their activity, all of that is tracked. You can always pull up a report that says demo user 4, here's the data they're inputting, and the time they're actually using it, and it'll say, hey, he or she hasn't submitted it yet, but they're working on these templates. So all that data is tracked. And really what we kind of see as important is these kind of workflows. We spent a lot of time making it aesthetically pleasing. So maybe something like this, which is a dashboard, you can go in and say, all right, well, here are the expenses by department now, top expenses. You can click and see the trend change, and you see the line item details underneath here. Point is here, you're creating a more interactive process where people actually want a budget, because now they can analyze this, click, right, and see the trend changes, and then they can go in and add comments on there as well. Okay? And if I ever wanted to have maybe a version of comments, so you have your executive comments, you have someone else, you can open something like this up where you can say, here's the actual, here's the budget. You can get a little trend going and say, hey, controller, here's the comments. Executive, they can comment on the revenue, expenses, this is too high, and then go in, store that data. So the point is, you now have all of that activity, comment, trend stored back into a database. And what's the point of actually having it in a database? The point is you can go, I'll skip the next level of approval. The point is you can go right underneath here, and now you can analyze your actual to budget, all right? So I'll open this up. You have your parameters, expand it out. You see right here I have the actuals coming from Great Plains, you have the forecast, and you have the budget, all with the ability of going in here and drilling down. So that's a huge benefit. Everything nicely comes together in this platform. And where we go into a lot of companies is they said, hey, yeah, we implemented a budgeting tool. That's great, but now to get my actuals, I'm back in Excel, right? Here, you're not. And just again to show you the flexibility of this thing, this has HR, professional services, all the departments. You click, see the accounts. If I want to slice and dice it a bit differently and maybe just see, this professional services, click OK, refresh, and same exact report, except now it just gives you professional services here. Okay? And that's just a regular report. Now, maybe this is great, but you only do this every now and then. Let's go in and let's take a look at actually a few of these dashboards and then reports. And I'll skip the dashboards for now. I'll go back into them in just a second. But just note, they're actually quite flexible in terms of what you can do. And from our experience, maybe some of the internet-based companies really do need the visuals, true like Power BI or Tableau visualization tools. For our mid-sized kind of customers, under a few billion, it's really, these are more than enough to get their charts. And I'll skip through these for a bit. Here's a P&L. This is now a formatted report, right? A balance sheet, cash flow statement. That's something the BI vendors don't do, is these kind of reports. And sales, a receivable, and so on. And here we even took Google Analytics data, pumped it into the warehouse, and enabled it for reporting. Now, how does all this look? Because I have finance accounting folks on the call here, what I'll do is I'll just open up this template. Same exact as the report, same exact as the budgeting. It's driven based on these parameters, right? You expand it out. You see who's ran for. In this example, corporate US is the company for the month of June. You see the revenues and expenses. This is really unique. If you add a new account in Great Plains, say you add account 40035, it's actually automatically going to appear in the report with you pressing this refresh button. And what you'll see is in a sec we'll actually build a report, and you'll see that it's all dynamic. You can drill down, kind of talked about this, both into the GL and summary. And another thing, it's funny, we built this and users immediately said, great, but what if I'm getting on a flight and I just want to see this in Excel? What you can do is have them, I'll click the share button. And by the way, we have mobile apps for this, both in Google Play and the Apple Store. And what I'll do here is I'll go and say, I want to save this as a P&L, testing, just say ABC. And the point is now I can go back to my desktop, right, open this up, and now this is just a regular Excel file right here. Another really cool thing is if right before I close the books, I actually know, hey, my product revenue is going to be closer to 1.4 million. When I go in here and click enter, all of the data here changes, right? And that's because all the formulas that were originally created in Excel, okay, were retained in this spreadsheet. Haven't seen any other companies do this, and the reason is, because you're building these templates with our Excel add-in. And again, we'll show you that momentarily. Okay? But for now, you're probably saying, hey, what if I do want to run it for a different company and it's now July? What do I do? Back here, you go in and say, great, I want to see corporate Canada instead. Again, this is where security kicks in, so you'll only see the companies you have access to. You can also select all of them if you want to see consolidations. And by the way, if for consolidation purposes, you can actually see the companies on the column broken out. You can see them on the tab. It's very flexible. And I'll pick up July here, click a button, and by the way, you see that scenario? That's the budget version that you're storing that I showed you. So if I want to see budget version 2 or something like that, I could just pick it up here, expand this out, and now I see it for corporate Canada for the month of July, okay, with its revenue and expenses. Over here, kind of same exact concept as I showed you with forecasting. You can toggle between the different templates. Okay? It's funny, we show reports and there's always an executive in the room that says, go back and show me one of those charts, right? So what's nice here is, you have the numbers, but right underneath it, if you want to now see a dashboard that supports this top line, you can scroll down here and see those dashboards. And it'll give you here the product sales, service sales, and you'll customize this. Point is you click and you see all of the data change as well, right? If I'm looking at this pie chart, I'm saying corporate EMEA, why is that 22%? I can click and see that, hey, because 29% of the revenue came from the fourth quarter. Now for you, maybe that's your product line. Okay? And again, right, pretty flexible in terms of what we can do. Because of that data warehouse, we can load other data sources. Here, you can actually take Google Analytics data and plug it in. You can plug in, Yahoo Finance data. Point is to show you your trends. And while there are a lot of companies doing this kind of thing, I really think what they miss is, you click, right? You see outliers here. You see outlier in your receivable. With a lot of those tools, the conversation sort of ends there, right? With the operational folks analyzing. Here, great. You see an outlier, computer equipment leasing. But now I want to see a formatted report that supports that data, right? So you go down here, you pick up the receivables, And nice little formatted report here. You can actually click a hyperlink. We have integrations built in with DocLink and Alltech, most of the major document management companies. If you don't use them, you can create a hyperlink. And the point is, when I go through and sorry about that, where is that? Click it and open it. What it should do here is pull up the actual invoice. Okay, so all in one place. And there it goes. Sorry about that. It was hiding here. So it's the invoice right there. I'll go back in and say, great, I get the purpose of this. Yeah, you can go do your forecasting, your budgeting, everything in one place. But what's the level of complexity in building that? And that's kind of really what I want to focus on next. But before I do, just to kind of summarize what we looked at, so everything's crystal clear, you go in as an administrator, put up these templates that I'll show you in a sec how to create onto the web portal. You can organize these folders for your end users. Your end users can go in, drill down to any of the underlying data. They can go in, forecast with full workflow. You can recreate all of your budgeting templates with the ability to capture who's storing this data all in one place here. The benefit of all of this is, again, all same concepts and really all of your reporting and budgeting in one place as opposed to pushing it constantly between Excel spreadsheets. Okay? Great. Let's say your CFO approves this, they love it, which happens a lot, and then now what, right? So let me actually show you how easy it is to build these templates from scratch. And to do that, I know a lot of GP users are familiar with familiar with Management Reporter. So I'll kind of just create a very simple financial report. Open Excel. Okay. What you might notice is all Excel still here, right? Except they have two tabs. BI360 Reporting for creating your reports and then adding some functionality to those reports to turn them into the forecasting and budgeting templates that you just saw. If I have an existing Excel template, want to continue building, I select New Current. In my example here, I'll select New Blank because I'm creating a brand new one. We'd probably hide this, but for the technical folks, you can always see the SQL output here. What I'll do now is click OK. And actually, I'm sorry, I did promise I was going to do it from the GP test database. So let me just do that one more time here. I'll open the template and close out of here. And what I'll do is I'll pick up GP, click OK, click OK. And what you see over on the left-hand side, all of the SQL table names are translated to simple business terms, right? So department's department, division's division, account is account, and so on. Also, unlike Management Reporter, it's not just finance. You got purchasing, any of the modules that you currently use in GP, exact same logic that I'm going to show, you're going to be able to pull in for reporting. Okay? Great. Let's build a report. I'll go in and just say, hey, we're building out, for simplicity, quick trial balance. I'll say, hey, we want the account, just typing this into Excel for formatting. And maybe we want year to date and last year to date. And then I want a variance here. For formatting, this is, I think, tremendously valuable. It's all Excel, so you don't have to learn a new custom tool. And the barrier to entry in terms of learning the software is much lower because we leverage Excel formulas. Now, what are you paying money for? This is different than Excel. And it's different because what I'll do here is I'll go in and pick up my account string, right? When I open this up account string, and this is Fabricam. For you, this is going to have your own segments here. So account, department, division, whatever segments you have in your account string are going to automatically appear here because of that tight integration we have with GP. I'll go and say account, perfect, drag and drop, and then pretty simple, 3 things, row, column, or sheet filters. Well, I'll show you all 3. I'll click row, go in here and say, perfect, we want to pick up all the accounts. Except maybe my 9s, right? Because those are my stat accounts. Remember when I showed you that P&L and I said, hey, when you add a new account in Great Plains, it's going to automatically appear? The reason is because of this, right? We use ranges. So when you go and say add 8555 right in between here in GP, it's going to automatically appear. And it's good practice. What I probably want to do here is go 899, right? And now if I ever add a new account, it'll automatically show up in the report itself. Click OK. And I mean, the rest is just really drag and dropping, right? I got my accounts. I want the description, drag and drop, get the activity here. And how do I differentiate now year to date from last year to date? Okay, and that's filter number 2 on the column level. And the way I do that in our tool is I'll use a function here. You can actually build your own as well, and literally same exact logic applies if I wanted to do, say, quarter 1 compared to quarter 1 of last year. Take it, drag and drop, perfect. Take this, drag and drop. Now I have year to date as of last year to date. Take the variance, and that is now just a formula, right? So year to date minus last year to date is just an Excel formula. And I'm just showing you minus, kind of simple, but you can use absolutely any formula in Excel. Click OK. Maybe from a formatting perspective, kind of very lightly, we'll put on some formatting. Maybe I want a total just to make sure that we actually balance here, and kind of expand this out. Great. I'm ready to run this report. Let's see how it looks, and then we'll go back in and make a few more modifications here. Right? So now, you as an administrator say, all right, do I want to push this up to the portal, right? If I want to push it up to the portal, we just spent the past half hour looking at it, very straightforward. If I just want to keep everything in Excel, you can obviously do both as well. Then, you go in, great, your business user sits in here and says, I want to see it for June of 2014, clicks a button, and now the accounts, the descriptions, year date, last year date, along with the variance, expand on the row here. Okay. And equates to 0, right? This is exactly where if your business user goes in, makes a mistake accidentally, or next month you guys add a new account right here, all you do is go in here, great, pick up July now, click a button, and it automatically reappears, right? Because it's the best of Excel, but takes out the worst of Excel. Also, and this is where kind of accountants get excited, you can go in and drill back into your subledger. So if I wanted to say, hey, I want to see my subledger, right? I can click through, and now inside I can see the full account string, the customer number, customer name, scroll over here, the vendor, the batch number, and so on, right? And here it actually gives you the full vendor. So if I want to say, hey, I just want to see, this guy here. Sorry, there's a delay in the GoToMeeting. If I wanted to see, let's say, this vendor, you can just filter through it. So boom, boom, click, and now you see the subledger for that account. And by the way, you can absolutely customize this if you just want to see specific things. Last concept that I want to show you is, hey, you remember how I picked up department and then company on the portal? How was that created? Well, that's the last filter, and that's the sheet filter. So what I'll do here is I'll go in and maybe for division, just to switch it up a bit, drag and drop, and I'll create a parameter here, right? Parameter being, hey, I want my end user to select it. Very customizable, and you can kind of see I'm not coding anything, just typing. So we can be polite and say, please choose division. You can choose a style here. You can have a checklist instead of the lookup edit that I've been using. And what I will do is I'll create a sheet per value. Pretty powerful little button, I think. And what it's going to do is create a separate tab for every division that I pick up. And maybe what I want to do here is just add the description. This is just for formatting. And the point of this now is your business user goes in and they say, great, I want to see consulting training, click OK and run it. Okay. And now they just see consulting training. If, however, they want to see consulting training, administration, and these actually, let's say 4 departments, right? Click OK and run it. And this could be for your companies, for anything else. Now, in a matter of less than 4 seconds, we see administration on one tab, sales on another, with the year date, last year date, variance, and so on. Right? I can go in, right-click, and drill into the subledger, something you can't do with MR, right within here. Okay? So, I mean, very powerful reporting tool, as you can see. Another thing to add is we have a lot of pre-built templates for, like I said, various verticals. They're really good starting points, and you can take those, see if they're a good fit. It'll give you ideas, and then you can continue building off of them. And you can see we have a lot of various templates. And we have templates for multi-currency, for allocation, and so on. Just to kind of show you one of my favorites, and this is what I call a board packet. What it does is just, again, right, now since we're familiar with how a template is created, you're kind of going to appreciate that nothing's hard-coded here, right? So if I look here, it's going to automatically pull in my top 10 receivables as those change in my database. Here it's going to pull in your payments, right? Pull in your sales. I'm going to continue scrolling through here, right? We see a dashboard, right? Then we see a cash flow statement. Point is, all of this is going to get filled up based on the parameters you pick, and it's going to roll into an alert and news tab. Okay? And right now, this news tab just sees descriptions, sees modern improvements, all gibberish here, right? And that's because your business user, whether it be on the portal or Excel, and if you're not clear on which option works best for you, that's really what we should discuss on a follow-up call, and I'll ask you specific questions to your requirements. But the point is, same exact methodology. Your business user goes in and says, hey, I want to see corporate US. I want to see actual compared to budget as opposed to budget version 2 or 3. All those budgets, again, are done within our system. It's literally just going in here and picking up the template. And I'll just stay with September here just because it's already there. Click a button, and based on those parameters, all of these tabs are going to fill up with data. And they're all going to roll into this news tab that now, because it picked corporate US, sees great improvement in the month of September. I can close out of this, by the way. Tells you how profitable you were, your revenues, your customers, your payable, receivable, and so on. And I know a lot of you folks are like, hey, how did it pull in? How did it know which words to pull in? You'll create them here. So yeah, it's just using if statements in Excel. But as you go below the 20% threshold here, right, in your database, like when you're not doing well, it'll say weak. So the point is you create these ones, and then you reuse them over and over to automate this board packet. Here, kind of quick chart. Again, as these change, these will change. Trend analysis as of 12 months. P&L for September. I kind of started showing this, but yeah, you can expand on the row. We can also expand on the column, right? So because it picked September, it gave us 9 months. If I had picked up October, it would give us 10 months. Cash flow statement here, balance sheet, right? Just more charts. I have a sales template where you click here and see the salesperson that sold that product, the date they sold it, quantity, unit price, right? You can see the top 10 products sold. You can go in here, see vendor payments, see the transaction amount, receivables, and same concept as what was illustrated with the trial balance. If you go in next month and Castle Inn Resort is no longer in the 10th place. Maybe there's something that supersedes the 70,053. It's now going to automatically appear instead of Castle Inn Resort in the 10th place. Okay? So all that is automated out. And from a planning perspective, again, all same place. You're creating this in Excel regardless. So just to look at one template, and I'll just take a look at that operational expense template just to compare apples to apples. We saw this on the web portal, but if you choose, you can deploy it in Excel. So I'll go to this run button, right? Pick my parameters here, same concept. Hey, do I want to see budget, forecast, run it? And based on these parameters, it will give me a template. Okay, this has data, but for you it would be blank. Over here it has your actual plus forecast. Right below, right, it has your accounts, budget, and other forms. You could go in, type data in, and then store back. Okay, or you could add those line item details as well. So on any of these things, what you can do is actually click this button, and now it'll give you the ability to say, hey, gifts and donations, let's add some line item details. Let's model it based on seasonality. Same thing as you saw on the web portal, except now it's in Excel. Okay? So, here you can go in and say, hey, I want to add some line item details. Great. That's gift for directors. Oops. Add the, and it rolls all that into. Okay. Go on to the next row, and then maybe for this account, and which is different, I want to use that spreading methodology, right? So I click this button, it goes in, pulls in that next account, and then I can go and say, hey, for special events, really what I want to do is copy the history. Okay, so I get rid of some of these line item details that are already in there. All right, boom, copies the history. Okay, perfect. You can see it models out, and I want to increase it by a few percentage points. So what it does, it increases every single month by those percentage points. Okay? So just another way of deploying the software. Now, what I want to do is wrap up, and to wrap up, I will show you the architecture, mention a few more tools that we have, and what you can see in the next two webinars. So, going back into the architecture, right, what we did today is we looked at this component. We started off, it says dashboard, but it also has those reports and budgeting all in one place on the web portal. So your end user goes in through a URL, types in their credentials, and gets to forecast, budget, and view their reports. Then we transitioned out a bit, and it built a report live off GP. If you wanted to pull in a report using other data sources, you can do that too. Then, what I'll do on the next webinar is I'll show you a few more tools we have. One, we have a smart list replacement, quick, easy, drag and drop, and you see information that you need on an ad hoc basis. And because we can load other data sources, if you want to cross modules and say, hey, I want to see when my, let's say HR, I want to pull in, the birthdays of my employees and quickly see when their birthdays are, great, you can do that with our ad hoc tool. Second, we also have a tool called the Report Publisher, which I'll show in the next webinar. And what that does, it sends out templates to end users. So it emails them out on a scheduled basis. So you as an administrator say, hey, here's when I want end users to receive those templates, and they'll receive them at a certain time, either to their inbox or to a shared file somewhere. And during the next webinar, I'll also show a lot more subledger. Then on the budgeting webinar that we have in 2 weeks, I'll get into a lot more detail, show you modeling templates, and again, right, this is just general. We have various vertical models built, and all of this you will be able to customize with your own data and templates. I want to leave my contact information here, and stop to see if you guys have any questions. feel free to reach out to me or Jim, and we'll get those addressed. Alternatively, I actually do want to open up the floor here, and if you have any questions, and I'm happy to address them with the entire group on the line. I think we have about 2 more minutes here. So, any questions here? All right. So not getting any, or actually, it's muted, and we've had a little bit of issues with this GoToMeeting today. So, just go ahead and follow up with me or Jim, and we'll get all your questions addressed. And I want to thank everyone for joining today, for spending the hour with me. Our apologies for the technical difficulties with the GoToMeeting in the beginning, but we got it started, went through it, and thank you so much. I mean, Jim, anything else to add? All right, probably muted as well. So let's wrap this up. Thank you very much for your time today, and look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.